The tip of the month is a great opportunity for all of us to become better motorcyclists by sharing our combined knowledge. This could be something that has to do with setting up your bike, it could be something that has to do with the gear that you're wearing, or perhaps an actual riding tip to make us better on the motorcycle. Last month, for instance, we talked about how to waterproof your gear. This month, we're going to talk about how to carry spare cables in the least obtrusive way. In order to do this, you're going to need a spare cable for whichever one you like. It could be your brake, clutch, throttle. I recommend all of them. Also, you're going to need some way to attach it to the bike. I recommend a duct tape. Also, zip ties are extremely handy. So have these on hand, go out to your garage, and you'll be able to get these set right up. Now, I will make a note also, this is working for street bikes, dirt bikes, adventure, ATV, anything that has a cable on it, it's going to work out. So, the theory behind this, these cables are very difficult to use. Where do you fit them? Do you wrap them up? They don't really want to. They take up space. They're a little awkward. The best way to do it is get it off of your body, get it out of your saddlebags, get it out of your backpack, and stick it on the motorcycle. You already have cables there. It's going to match up perfectly, so simply route this along your existing cable. It's going to make it much easier. It's always going to be there. If you do crash and it gets ripped out of the bike, the ends aren't attached. Yes, it's attached to the existing cable, but they're not plugged into the controls or to your clutch or whatever. That means they will not suffer the damage, or they should not. You're also going to want to tape the ends, but we'll get more into that. Let's take a look at how that looks here on this KLR 650. The first step is to get a spare cable. So my recommendation is, if you don't have one already, you're going to purchase a brand new cable. But rather than let that brand new cable sit there unused, replace them. You've had your bike for a while, swap out the cables, and then take the ones that you pulled off and use those as your spares. They'll always be there, and then it's not necessarily as heavy on the wallet just to have those things sit around. But before we put this on, we want to make sure that we get it cleaned up. And also remember that the ends of the cables are exposed. We don't want water and grime and everything getting down inside. So the first thing to do is to tape up the ends and make sure they're secured. This is a lot easier to do when it's off of the bike before we route it through. So let's grab a little bit of duct tape, wrap it up, and then we can start routing it along the existing cable. Now that the ends are all taped up, one more thing to consider is that one of these ends is going to be much larger than the other. So obviously the small end will be much easier to feed through as we're routing it up the bike. That means I'm going to start at the bottom here and work it this direction rather than starting from the top and trying to feed this little fatty all the way through the mess around the steering head. It's very simple to do. All you need to pay attention to as you're doing this is the existing route for your cable, and keep in mind that sometimes the tolerances are close. You have to make sure that this isn't going to contact your exhaust pipe, it's not going to run interference or get rubbed on by the fender as your wheel turns. Keep in mind that there could be some potential hangups, so you really have to keep a close eye on that. Keep it zip tied very, very tight to the existing wire. If it's not going to work and it will rub on something, you need to find a different solution. Keep an eye out for areas like this. Anywhere where a cable might be rubbing on something, you'll notice that the existing cable is wrapped in rubber. That's a protective barrier. So once this is finally in place, you may want to go back through and wrap a little extra tape in areas that might get rubbed on, just to give them a little extra insulation. Okay. Now that we've got the cable where it needs to be, we'll attach a few zip ties to keep it in place. And from then on, we're basically done. Once you have your cable fully routed, it's time to go ahead and make sure you have enough security. Don't skimp out on these zip ties. If you need to put one or two more on there, it's no big deal. The last thing we want is one of these ends vibrating around and wearing through, causing more damage than it's actually supposed to do. So, throw a few on there, make sure you go back along the entire route, double check that nothing is rubbing, and it's very simple to do. What you're doing here is allowing your motorcycle to do the work for you. You don't have to carry them. It's a real handy tip.